Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our Thursday session of our Bible study for this week. It's good to have all of you here. Just jotting down a few quick notes as we prepare to do our final processing of Queen Anna. We haven't done a whole lot of deep diving into Queen Anna, but I trust that you get the general gist that Queen Anna was a queen that experienced a lot of grief in her life. So as you're coming into the room and saying good morning to everybody and acknowledging each other's presence. Good morning to everybody. Teresa, I see that you say that you're driving, got that star testing for all educators. We are sending forth prayers for the students and the staff on today in alignment with Teresa's prayer request. And then I also saw your notes on yesterday evening, and I'm sure Queens will be wrapping their love and their arms around you and responding accordingly. But everybody, if you could lean on that love button on this morning and let's chunk it up for students all over this nation who are testing and educators, my goodness, who are in the classrooms, in the hallways, administrators, all things education, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, aides, like all of them. We surround you with love and prayers on this morning. And if you have a child who goes to public school, honey, tell them to act right with them adults. Tell them don't be down there trying to fight the teachers and carrying on. That's just too much, y'all. So Teresa, we certainly cover you and every other educator or person who operates in the educational sphere. We cover you all in prayer on this morning. I know Ricky's in that vein. Cynthia Booker's in that vein. Ann Roberts is in that vein. I'm just trying to think of other educators. And if you know other educators as well, you can put their name in the comments so that they're surrounded by all of this love and prayers on this morning. But good morning to everybody. We're going to run straight over to grief today because I got two different things that I know I'm supposed to talk about, and then we're going to wrap this up. We are going to talk about the dichotomy of grief. We're going to talk about how you can have bipolar experiences going through grief and loss. And so, to be very clear, we're not just talking about physical death, we're talking about loss, whether that loss is in divorce, whether that loss is through a miscarriage, whether that loss is in a friendship, that loss is with an estranged relationship between a parent and a child, between siblings, like grief and loss, anything that makes our heart kind of break or bleed or be moved or hardened by some sense of absence. We're even talking about that never existed, right? How you can experience grief and loss there. I want to talk about that for a moment and then talk about the emotional manifestation of that grief and of that loss and how the Lord truly does desire that we be well and that we be whole. So from the beginning, then we're going to need all mature women to arise and all kingdom citizens to arise so that we can address these things through kingdom principles. So welcome to the community, as always, where we're over here being better together, better with God and better with one another. I'll invite you through the verbiage that Jen uses to like the post, not just in the comments, but to like the post, particularly on Thursdays. I emphasize that because tomorrow is our day of prayer. Friday mornings is our day of prayer. And we really do call you by name. We really do desire that God move in your heart and move in your circumstances, move in your spirit, man, move in your woman, man, right? Like move in you and do the things, allow the things that he has already established to be made manifest in our inner man, y'all. Because when we really get it and we believe it like we believe it, then dang, we can be everything that he has created for us to be. So if you'll go ahead and like the video or respond to the video, and then we're jogging over to day number 23, page 102, my core is settled. Everybody say that with me. My core is settled. My core, it's settled. My core is settled. Real quickly, I want to thank each of you who've been responding already to the post that Charlotte made about our pop-up on June the 4th for family, friends, and funnel cake. That's going to be a fun time for all of us, but it'll also be a nod to my pending, honey, y'all, that was a whole faith post. Oh, girl be voting on me. Y'all see, y'all got them kind of friends. She be voting on me. I don't have nary no test results back yet. I don't have anything from the school yet, but she is already believing that I have knocked it out of the ballpark. So she has posted, and in hosting, co-hosting with a couple of my sis and another friend of mine, that pop-up event. So I am hopeful that you will join me there. Back to it. My core is settled. I see y'all saying that my core is settled. Somebody saying, where can I get that information? It's already posted in the community. So if you just scan down a little bit, you'll see a video from Charlotte, and you'll see the details right there on a flyer, and you're welcome to share it, like to one or to other of my girlfriends that you know that would come. But everybody can, to girlfriends of mine that y'all know who may not be in the community, but who would have wanted to come. If you tell them, that's absolutely perfect as well. Y'all are all hosting it, okay? So everybody can be a part. Sabrina, folk, you know I would want there, like Kanisa, okay? Y'all share it. All right, so here goes. My core is settled. My core is settled. Here's the short of it. If you will track with me, Queen Elizabeth in infancy, she had 8 siblings, right? And she was the 5th child. 8 of her siblings died in infancy. So you can imagine that when she's born into this household, absolutely there is great joy. But for any mother who's loved multiple children, you know that the birth of one and the life of one and the joy of one does not replace another. So, although they're happy and they're glad when she's born, these parents have already lost 8 other children. So, there is sadness in the house. That's why we're going to talk about the bipolar, the dichotomy of grief. So, they are able to have both joy and sadness at the same time. And some of us need to catch that, and we'll circle back and talk about that, okay? So she's there. But in spite of that, she continues to win. So she has flawless skin. We're in paragraph 2. A perfect physique. She's beautiful. All of those things, right? But it still again captures that you can have the exterior, the external benefit of all things that seem wonderful, but not be exempt from the tragedies and the loss and the grief that can occur in life, particularly when you are in a fallen world. So again, that's going to be a nugget that we'll come back to, because sometimes when life externally looks good for you, people don't hold space for you not to be well. In fact, they observe you externally and they think, what do you have to complain about? What do you have to be sad about? What do you have to even have a complaint about? And here's the deal. This highlight from this queen allows us to see that externally things can all be well, but people do not understand what's happening behind the scenes in your story, in your grief, and in your loss. So physically, long blonde hair, white skin, whatever the standard of beauty and wonderful is for external onlookers, that can be just supposed up against what you're really feeling on the inside. And I don't even have to pause to say that if anybody has ever been in this space where you've held in a complaint or a concern, because you know that from the outside looking in, people don't really even think that you have the right to have a concern or a complaint about anything. They look at the external rewards of your life and they minimize the idea that you could actually be going through pain, that you could actually have something that causes your tears to wet the pillow at night. They look at your external and then determine whether they feel that you have the right to grieve or to mourn or to articulate being disheartened by something. Anybody ever been there? So what you do is then you just hold your complaint to yourself, you hold your observation to yourself, or you lead with disclaimers like, I know I got a lot to be grateful for, but, and it minimizes the essence of what you're trying to bring to the table. And we're going to talk about all of that so that we can really be well. And I see some Facebook user raising her hand already saying, yes, I know what it's like to understand that I'm blessed, to understand that God has been good to me. And so because of that, I don't articulate the areas of my life where there's lack, because I don't want to come across as ungrateful. Some of that is that same old conditioned cultural thinking that says to indicate that we're grateful to God. We can't ever articulate anything of concern, because then we're going to look as if we're unappreciative. And y'all know I'm going to say, God is so much bigger than that. God understands us way more than that. But that's Queen Elizabeth. Then Queen Elizabeth, she has this husband. This husband takes her off into his country, and then she becomes stationed there. So that can look like a bit of loss, where you are displaced, where you're no longer among your people, where you're grieving feeling isolated, and you're grieving feeling lonely, and you're grieving feeling as if you've been uprooted from that which is familiar and that which works for you. And that in this story looks like her moving into a different country. But for us, in very practical terms, it can look like somebody who's built a whole life as a wife in a particular role with a particular spouse. And because that marriage has been dissolved, now you feel displaced. Women have told me how it sometimes can feel as if mutual friends have to choose to be friends with one or the other. So, in addition to losing their spouse, they lose like a set of friends. Some of them have to feel misplaced in their churches, because now they're going to go and choose a different church home so that they don't have to bump into each other every Sunday or every Wednesday or whatever that looks like. Some of them have to move out of their houses and into a new space. So this divorce is exacerbated because it's layered with other complexities of uprooting and feeling rejected or feeling left out. Anybody ever been there for the sake of perhaps a queen who's journeying in that space right now, and you want them to know that they are not alone? So when we talk about grief and we talk about loss, there are lots of complexities to it. But at the end of the day, we will still say what Queen Elizabeth is saying: my core is settled. I see people saying been there. So for any queen who's on the line, who is currently experiencing the grief and the loss that happens during divorce, even though that ex-spouse is still alive, but you see the changes in your life. You have a host of queens who's jogging on up into this community to let you know, I've been there. So what you're feeling and what you're experiencing is very much real. It's very much real. And so then lastly, when we get down to the last part of it, it says that even the ways of being for the people, right here on this paragraph, even the ways of being for the people were very foreign to Queen Elizabeth. They had customs and traditions and things that she was not familiar with. And so it again made her feel as if she was the outsider in a foreign land. Again, translating that here, you may have moved. You may be in a foreign country because you're a military wife, or you may have relocated to a different city, or you may have to engage in some environments, even at work, and you're standing around thinking, okay, everybody uses a certain type of language, or everybody engages in a certain type of behavior. Everybody's familiar and they're all friends for years. And then here I come. And so you can feel displaced even in employment, because you're just trying to find your way in that culture. So there are all types of ways to really experience grief and loss. But the beautiful piece that I love about it is it says that she learned how to insulate herself. Get the word: insulate, not isolate. Isolate is this pulling away and playing it small way back in a space. It doesn't say that she isolated herself. It says that she insulated herself. Y'all hear me on this morning? Insulated herself. When we think of insulation, it's like insulation in a house. It's like that insulation that they add into the walls and they add into the very infrastructure of a home to ensure that the warmth that is inside, or the reverse during the summer, the coolness that is inside, it stays inside. The benefits that are on the inside stay inside when we insulate ourselves. Somebody say that: insulate, insulate. And so she knew how to insulate herself. She knew how to protect the strength that she had on the inside. That's going to be a whole lesson one day on how do we insulate ourselves. Most often, our defense mechanism has been to isolate ourselves. When things start getting rough and rocky, myself included, because I don't like a lot of negative, confrontational, waste of time, drama types of stuff, my first response is often flight. It's often to remove myself. And what I recognize though is if we're going to be, because we're going to be kingdom citizens, because we are people of power and influence, because we are people who have value and voice, we can no longer completely default to the defense mechanism of isolation. We're going to have to mature. We're going to have to grow and learn how to choose insulation over isolation. Are y'all following me? We're going to learn how to not be fearful and run away. We're going to have to learn how to, excuse me, be able to be in those spaces that are often filled with moments of rejection or pushback or non-acceptance or exclusion. And we're going to have to own that I belong in this room. You can either roll out the welcome mat or you can move to the side, because what is not going to happen is that I will be run off, that I will be swept out of the room, that I will be overwhelmed by adult bullying, that I will play it small, that I will shirk, that I will give up my internal peace so that you can have external peace, so that I will silence my voice. All of those defense actions are isolation. Insulation is I get on up, I have my pep talk with myself, I remind myself of what God has said about my life, I choose to believe his promises, I rest in his word, I put my hands in his hand, I remind myself of who's holding my hand, I declare what he's declared over my life, I get with a prayer partner or I text a quick friend who's in agreement with me, I come into the community and I am reminded, I insulate the promises that are already on the inside of me, and I step into every arena like God has already established it, like God has already said that it is so. I put my eyes on him, not externally. It's like we got to literally choose if we are going to walk in the capacity and in the authority that God has ordained over our lives. We can no longer play it safe. We can no longer do the hide and seek. We can no longer afford to be silent. We can no longer afford to pretend as if we don't have a voice or have an opinion. We've got to determine that I am going to insulate versus isolate. I am no longer being run off from the blessings that rightfully belong to me. Is there anybody in agreement with that on today? I am no longer going to be tossed and turned and on. I am no longer going to be run off because you talk loud, or you have adult bullying behavior, or you're intimidating, or you don't want me here. And I sense it and I pick up your bad vibes. I don't care. I don't care if you don't want me at my table. This is my table. I don't care if you don't want me in my position. This is my position. I don't care if you don't like that I'm getting my increase. This is my increase. It's taking that attitude that I will not isolate, I will insulate. But what is that insulate being based on? My core being fixed. Y'all get it? We circle all the way back to that. My core being fixed. When I can insulate myself with strength when my core is fixed, when my core is settled, when I'm stepping into by faith what God has said about me and my life. Not that I can see it everywhere, but I step into it by faith. So if we were in a room together, I'd have y'all getting up and stepping. But Swan, yes, ma'am, we insulate. We don't isolate. We're no longer running, y'all. We're no longer cowering down. We're no longer doing that, not as a practice. Every once in a while, we may get a little nervous and say, okay, wait. I got to take a time out and go and regroup. But even when I isolate, it's for the purpose of strengthening my insulate. Are y'all here? Yes, ma'am. So we're going to insulate. We're going to insulate and stay flat footed on the battlefield. We're going to insulate and stand flat footed in these corporate settings. We're going to insulate and stand flat footed on television programs and radio broadcasting, in negotiations of deals and in contracts and before great people and within our family units and in our marriages. We're not isolating and running and playing it small. We're going to insulate ourselves. We're going to be filled and be reminded of what God has said. And then we're going to set our face like a flint and we're not going to be moved. We're not going to be moved. Everybody in agreement say, I will not be moved. So this woman in the midst of her grief, Queen Elizabeth, all of those different dynamics that I just shared with you, Queen Elizabeth, it says of her that that when grief felt really heavy, perhaps she heard the whispered prayers of her parents. Remember, they're praying over the loss of all of those kids. Whatever the route to the lesson was, Queen Elizabeth had learned the power of pulling away, get this, to connect with that which made her well. She didn't just isolate, she pulled away to connect with what made her well. She insulated herself. That's how we survive. We insulate ourselves. We're clear. There are a whole lot of things that make us well, but the primary thing that makes us well is God. Our trust is in Him. So let me talk for just a few minutes about this then. I want to intentionally hold space for anybody who is going through loss. Anybody who is going through loss in any of the things that we've talked about. I'm going to run them real quick, whether it's literally physical grief loss, it's divorce, it's miscarriages, it's rejection, it's betrayal, it's friendships, it's estranged relationships, it's you're in the transitioning process where you are literally your loved one is transitioning, they're still here, but you already know, but that God work a miracle, like all of that. Your person committed suicide, or your person is not mentally fully there. So it could be an elderly parent who's in dementia. So even though they're present, or grandmother, they're not really here, and there's loss and there's grief because of the different dynamics. Memories are no longer here. Experiences, they no longer know our name. Any of that. All right, any form of loss. And y'all jump into the comments with me and tell our community other ways that people can be lost and experiencing the loss. Here's what I want to say about that. Point blank, period. You can lose bad things and still miss them. It is necessary to say that. It is necessary for you to understand that so that you can be well and you can be whole. If you think that because your marriage was bad and it ended up in a divorce, that you have to automatically hate the person, hate the mention of their name, hate everything about them, you will not hold space for yourself to be healed. Y'all hear me? Because I'm gonna wrap it up because I got a list. Some of you know I've been running over the past few days. I love y'all. Y'all see how I still be coming? How I told y'all I wasn't gonna act brand new. Now y'all done seen me with the mayor one day on the radio yesterday. I got other stuff to do today. But honey, I care about y'all. I'm gonna need y'all to clap it up right there because I told y'all that I'm too global to be local. And when things start happening, I'm gonna still be committed to this community because y'all are committed. So we're gonna be committed together. I love y'all. Y'all put some love right there. But this is what I want to say. If you do not hold space for the dichotomy of emotions in grief, you will not be well. You will be trying to live into a stereotypical condition belief that if something is no longer in my life, if something is no longer a part of my life, if something does not fit, then if it was negative, I got to hate it. And y'all, I want to tell you so you can be healed that that is not true. You could have been married in a horrible circumstance, and you understand that that horribleness, that moment, that situation is not good for you. And that awareness is solid. You need to know that awareness. But at the same time, for you to be completely healed, it is okay for you to let the Lord know, but I missed the companionship. I missed the fact that I thought my forever was settled. I missed the fact that there was someone helping me to carry the weight of the expenses of living in this earth realm. I miss not knowing who I'm going to sit by at every event. I miss not knowing who my dance partner is. I miss not knowing who automatically automatically is going to whatever, whatever, whatever. You do not have to buy into this something that says if it was bad or ugly or not the best, then I gotta only have one type of emotion about it. You can exist knowing that this thing right here was not good to me in all elements, but there are parts of it as a human being, as a woman, that I miss. If you live your next trying to pretend that that is not true, you will not be healed. Now, I don't have time to give you full range therapy on today, but I want you to know that there is a dichotomy in loss. And it is okay to say, he was not the best father, but he was mine. He was not the best husband, but he was mine. She was not the best friend, but she was mine. And there are levels in this dynamic that even though I know that exchange was not completely good, there are elements about the exchange that I miss. And unless I hold room to address what makes me cry, what causes me to weep, what makes me feel a bit saddened that this thing is no longer in existence, you will not be well. Do y'all hear me? Everybody follow me on today. You got to hold space to do both. You got to pull down the stinking thinking that has conditioned us to say, well, if he was an absentee father and I ain't never known him and I met him one time anyway, I don't care about him like that. Sis, yes, you do. The way that I know that you do is because I know the environment in which you were formed. Sis, the first relationship that women were introduced to in the very fiber of our spiritual and physical makeup, even though people immediately jump us to Eve, the first for real relationship that women were introduced to was a father. It was Daddy God creating them and having a moment, just them, before he even went and woke Adam up. So it ain't no way on God's green earth, if God created you in the context, like literally the very first relationship that we were introduced to was a father figure, there is no way that that could be dysfunctional or missing from your life and you not have some residue of that in your space. And it is okay for you to be able to understand that he was not here, so I don't love him like that, but I wish I could have. I wish he would have. It is okay to really, all I'm trying to say is it is okay to explore loss and grief and the absence of any area of our life and not feel as if we have to be locked down into one emotion or one mindset about it. You can choose to be healed in every element of it. Get this, sis. I'm talking, everybody said mature women arise. I'm even talking to women who have moved on and you now have healthy marital relationships, but you have fathers, you have children who have different fathers. It is okay for you to understand that I love my new spouse. I love what we are creating, but I miss that the father of that child, out of either disrespect for me or even disrespect for our child and what we created, does not show up and respond with integrity, does not show up and respond with responsibility. Y'all, we don't have to choose one or the other, where I just love my new person so much that I don't even have, yeah, I can love my new person so much and still at the same time wish that for God's sakes, if we loved each other or engaged with one another enough to sit down and create a child, and we wasn't sitting, y'all know what I'm saying, but I'm just saying that my goodness, yes, Daddy God, it moves me that he does not respect me as a woman or a mother or this child enough to every once a year say happy birthday. And Daddy God, I'm irritated about it or I'm hurt about it. And I don't want to have to explain to the spouse or to other people when I should have been in their worlds. I should just move on and be over it. No, I want to be able to talk about how that loss, how that lack of experience still leaves residue in my life today, how it leaves residue in my child's life today. I want that issue to have resolution. I want somebody to give an account for it. It is okay for us to have more than one emotion about loss. Everybody following me? Right there, because I could give you example after example of how the world conditions us that we can only have one narrative or one emotion about a thing. And so it doesn't allow us to dig into it with truth. It doesn't allow us to say, you know what? I know this one over here loves me, but I am moved. I am moved. We were high school sweethearts. You made all of these promises. We created this child, and baby boy ain't heard from you in 20 years. I mean, at least for God's sake, you could just say hello once in a while. I'm not trying to fall in love with you or get back with you. That's just called human decency. And it moves me that you could be that disrespectful towards me and our child. Y'all, that's okay. Are you following? And I just want us, y'all, to truly be healed, to not walk around band-aiding things and pretending that things don't matter to us, and teaching ourselves not to allow them to matter. And then we hand off that same unhealthy, toxic way of being to the next generation. We teach that young lady who comes in and says, Mama, I just really want to know who my dad is. And we say things like, well, you got a new dad. I done married, that's your dad. And we dismiss it with those types of conversations. And that young lady will be the one who grows up doing what so many of us have done, looking for love in all the wrong places, finding herself in the arms of folk, all from this little something that had we just said, you know what, baby? I don't tell you about your dad because I don't want you to be disappointed. I don't want you to be waiting at the windowsill watching for him to come and he's not going to show up. But I owe it to you to tell you who he is and to explain the why I've tried to safeguard you from that connection. But at the end of the day, you're right. That's your dad. That's your identity. That's the one that you got. Mama made that choice, and that's the one that you got. So however you decide to pursue it or look it up, instead of you having to sneak and do it because they gonna do it anyway, I'm gonna be right here with you. Let me be a part of your journey. If you say that you want to find him, and look, mama can already know he ain't gonna answer, or maybe he will. But whatever your child is about to encounter, instead of forcing them to go into isolation, because we all got to pretend that that person doesn't exist and we're so mad at them, we link up with them and we help to protect them on their journey of finding out who they are, because all of us can remember spaces in our lives where we prefer to have the ugly truth than those under the rug secrets. Am I helping y'all? Grief and loss. What I'm saying, Sabrina, grief and loss and all things associated with it do not have the power to lock us into one narrative and one emotion. We can both move on past a thing and still miss a thing. We can be angry because it was bad, but acknowledge the places where we miss parts of it and allow God to do the work in those spaces. We don't have to pretend with our good daddy God. We don't have to pretend. And the latter part of what I wanted to say, and it's so time to go, is because when we do that, y'all listen, our emotions are going to be expressed, whether we verbally express them or not. What do I mean by that? What does it look like? Our emotions are going to be expressed, whether we verbally articulate them or not. So we're either going to do the work of learning to articulate, sit with, understand our emotions. Our emotions are going to show up in our eating patterns. Our emotions are going to show up in our lack of sleep. Our emotions are going to show up as triggers, and we're going off on a whole lot of other folk who are not deserving of that and ruining and self-sabotaging relationships. Our emotions are going to show up in our stress levels. Our emotions are going to show up in our physical bodies. Like when those critical things are happening in our life, the fact that we zip our lips and cover our hearts don't mean that the emotions and the drama and the trauma of it goes away. It just means that it's internalized, and that somehow at some moment that emotion is going to scream loud. At some moment that emotion is going to say, I am here and I will not be silenced. The power, the empowerment that we get is to live aware of it and choose to do something about it. Instead of it choosing us and taking over us, we can choose to navigate that emotion. And I'll just wrap up, y'all, because it's so time to go. I want to remind you again to check in on the video so we can cover you in prayer. It is just that thing. Emotions will do that because you are wired with them. Emotions will show up in your night dreams. Emotions will show up in your night dreams. You'll find yourself waking up feeling the heaviness of a dream and not even remembering what the dream was, but emotionally and physically feeling the sadness or the heaviness. Somebody be honest and say, I've been there. I've woke up out of my sleep myself. I'm talking about me crying about something because it came in through my night sleep in my mind, in my thoughts, and I wake up in an emotional response to it. But I get out of the bed and I wipe those tears away and I go on with my day, never slowing down enough to say why that whatever that was matters so much to me that during the night I dreamed about it and woke up sad. Anybody ever been there? Your emotions are going to be expressed, y'all. And I know we're doing the work and it can be heavy on a morning, but y'all, we want to be well and whole. So here then is our takeaway even for today. Even for today. One, know and understand this. You don't have to choose to be in one narrative or one emotion about grief and loss. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can be traversing through things, separating from things, moving past things, and you understand that that is the right decision. But you can also hold space for yourself to do the work of missing the pieces that you will miss, acknowledging the pieces that need to be acknowledged, lamenting before God the stuff that ain't right. Like God can handle both. And it doesn't mean that I want to go back into that situation or I want you to bring back my father or I want you. It doesn't mean that. It just means that it's more complicated and complex than this one note answer and conditioning. And I'm pulling that down and I'm laying my authentic self before the Lord because I want to be well and I want to be whole. I don't want to be walking around a walking trigger. I want to be well and I want to be whole. Number two, your emotions will be expressed. So you either can choose to begin to do the work of understanding yourself and understanding your emotions, or your emotions gonna get you. They're gonna cut up like a kid in Walmart who wanted some candy and you told them don't touch it. Your emotions will eventually spill over into your stress levels, into your physical body. Some of y'all think that you're just greedy or just overweight. No, you're not. You're stress eating. You're grief eating, and you don't even realize it. That's how your body is responding to this missing emotion. Some of us have nervous activity. We shake our legs, our hands, or we chew gum out. Like they even realize that your emotions are being expressed. Lastly, though, this is what we do. And I invite you to say it with me. For believers, we do not isolate. We no longer run from this stuff. We insulate. Y'all got that? And the way that we insulate is to remember that our core is settled, that no matter what we face, God is with us. God is in us. And greater is He who is in us than anything that is in this world. When I face everything knowing that, y'all, I then understand that I'm going to be victorious. All things really are working together for my good. So if I lost it, if I'm grieving it, if I'm anxious about it, man, the greater one lives on the inside of me, and he's going to defeat all of that. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not ducking and dodging stuff anymore because my core is settled. I know who's with me, and he's the one that empowers me to look at my life in truth, and let him deal with it. All right. So we're not isolating, we're insulating our core and standing flat footed because God is with us. I hope this whole week, our talk about grief has helped somebody to really understand that you don't have to do it like the world tells us to do it, that God really can handle you bringing up whatever it is that is of loss to you, the mixed emotions, all of it. It could be 20 years ago. He can handle it, y'all. I hope that you've honestly been helped because grief is that thing. It sucker punched me on Monday, but y'all see I'm punching grief back. I'm punching grief back so that we can all navigate it better in Jesus' name. All right. I'll see you all right back here in the morning for prayer. My heart's desire is to see so many of you on Saturday at the Church Without Walls on Brook Hollow. And then additionally, my prayer is to see so many of you on June 4th. Honey, you got a whole almost month to put it on your calendar and make it do what it does. It was do my heart good. Again, I invite you because I don't have the moment sometimes to invite all folk, but y'all know, so many of you know me. Y'all know folk that I love, folk that would love to be there had they known. Please join the host committee. Those of you willing to join the host committee with Charlotte Stallings, if you please raise your hand. And this is what it means to join the host committee. It means that you will simply download, because I think it allows you to download the pick of the flyer, and y'all help her invite my folks. So I don't have to, so I don't have to type a long list and be trying to sit it out. Y'all know, some of you have known me from the womb. Y'all know the folk. So y'all help her invite my folk. It is not just a woman's event. So you're welcome. Like Tawanda, y'all know I dig Adrian and Pat and all them folk. Y'all know the different people. So y'all help her by being a part of my host. I see people saying I can help host. Absolutely. Absolutely. So y'all do that. But I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. I look forward to seeing you on June the 4th. And I look forward to seeing you in the morning for prayer. As always, I honor the greatness that's on the inside of you. Y'all have a good day.